Hey guys, Gaddock Teeg here, bringing you a hard mode Dread Palace boss guide. In this video we'll take a look at the operation's first boss, Dread Master Bestia. During the first phase of this encounter, Bestia will remain at her throne, immune to damage. Instead, players will have to deal with 3 different types of adds that spawn throughout the phase. The first type of add is the Dread Tentacles, which will spawn in one of a few random areas around the room. When these spawn, you will see a raid warning: a Dread Tentacle is targeting blank. These tentacles will cast the ability called Spit, which, if it completes casting, will one-shot the targeted player. These must be interrupted and killed quickly, so it's usually best to have your best DPS assigned to tentacle duty. Whenever a tentacle is up, that player should find it, interrupt, and kill it before it does anything else. The second type of add is the Dread Larva, which look like the spawn from the Writhing Horror. These guys are pretty slippery and do an AoE to the whole raid. The rest of your DPS should be killing these first, when they are alive. The final add you'll need to contend with is the Dread Monsters. These big guys should be the main focus of the tanks. If 2 of them are next to each other, they will get a huge damage buff, so tanks will have to taunt one and take them to opposite sides of the room. Pick one of the 2 and mark it as the DPS's primary focus and burn them down. The big thing in this first phase is to keep a steady stream of DPS in the Dread Monsters, while killing all the other little adds. Every 30 seconds or so, an additional monster will spawn, and the tank will usually end up taking 2 Dread Monsters for a short period of time, so they should be prepared to pop cooldowns, and the other tank should pull one off as soon as his monster is down. The DPS should focus on whichever one is lower. After 2 minutes, Bestia will become active and phase 2 will begin. If you have any more than 1 monster left up at this point, you're not putting out enough damage on these monsters. When Bestia comes up, one of the tanks should grab her as the DPS finishes up whatever adds are left from phase 1. Phase 2 is pretty simple, but it will be to your benefit if you nail the mechanics so you can do them for phase 3. Bestia will put a stacking debuff on the tank that will increase the damage Bestia deals to that player. Tanks should swap at around 5 stacks, but in a pinch a tank can go as high as 10 stacks with appropriate cooldown usage. The rest of the ops group needs to be watching for 2 different red circle attacks. Combusting Seed is a big red reticle that targets a player and puts a debuff on them that explodes for about 15k damage after 10 seconds, hitting anyone left inside the reticle. Any player targeted by this ability needs to move out of the raid. The other red circle is easy to confuse with the Combusting Seed, but is much smaller, and looks very similar to the pools from the Dread Guard encounter in TFB. These will be placed on the floor below a random raid member and deal 10k damage every 2 seconds to anyone standing inside them. They will be telegraphed by a few seconds with a cloud of red that will begin to float around the targeted area. When Bestia reaches 50%, she says, "My pets are legion, behold," and phase 3 begins. At this point, Bestia will begin summoning adds just like in phase 1. Players should maintain their priorities just as in phase 1, but be mindful that the 2 red circle abilities are now going out as well. The one added nuance is the fact that Bestia will also enrage the Dread Monsters if she is positioned near them, so tanks will need to split up and position across the room. We find it best if one tank positions Bestia in between the 2 spawning areas, while the other tank pulls the monsters to the adjacent wall. This will allow tanks to avoid the cheap shots from monsters that have just spawned, without stressing healers too much with distance. This phase will seem like a lot of chaos at first, but it's really not all that bad. Just maintain your composure and keep to your kill orders, remembering to only get damage on Bestia when nothing else is up. Probably the hardest part of this phase is getting clean tank swaps off. If a monster gets too close to Bestia, or if a tank is left with too many stacks for too long, it will likely result in the death of a tank. It's important to note that Bestia has a forced leap, but the monsters have no ranged abilities. Because of this, the cleanest way to swap is demonstrated here. The tank on the monster uses his gap closer to Bestia, and then taunts. Only after the taunt takes place does the other tank use his gap closer to go towards the monster and taunt the monster. A little practice and you'll have this down smooth as silk. I've never seen an enrage on this fight, so focus on mechanics and you should have a kill in no time. I hope you found this video helpful, and remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other boss guides. Thanks for watching.